Welcome to the video, guys. As is common practice these days, the Ramonim rag the Independent, which is obviously about as independent as a Momentum activist, is back crying about Brexit with an article explaining the 10 Brexit options Boris could go for, of course in their own mind. Naturally, it's stuff with the usual Project Fear, liberal elite-based thinking and just downright stupidity the Guardian would be proud of. These are not Brexit options, they are anti-Boris, anti-Brexit talking points they hope will stop Brexit. Of course, it will not. Only Boris and his Conservatives in name-only government can do that, but even them idiots know it would be the end of them as a political force, so instead they will just completely cock up absolutely everything else, which is actually something we have seen over the past few months consistently. But before we get into that, remember the daily livestream has moved over to Twitch, so if you want to join me over there to chat in real time, the link will be down in the video description, along with the channel's other social media links if you want to support me on other platforms like BitChute, Parler and the rest of them. But back to the Independent article and their Brexit options with the headline, "What kind of Brexit will we get?" Boris Johnson has 10 options to ponder before the end of the year. The next round of technical negotiations on a Brexit trade deal begins soon, but to reverse the famous slogan, "It's economics, stupid. Brexit is pure, it's politics, stupid." The year will end with a political decision principally made by Boris Johnson and him alone. No, it will end with the government hopefully fulfilling the decision made by the British people 4 years ago, at least to some degree. We know for them to actually do it as the people wanted, they would have to go for a WTO Brexit and Boris would have to rip up his withdrawal agreement. Cabinet government does not exist, the Commons is irrelevant, it is what happens inside the Prime Minister's head that will determine what sort of Brexit we get this year, which to be honest sounds like a load of bullshit to me because obviously we know Boris Johnson has been rather weak, the cunt couldn't lead a piss up in a brewery. Here are 10 political Brexits Mr Johnson has to ponder before making his final decision. Number 1. Tory Brexit. The Conservatives finally won a big majority last December for the first time since 1987. All Tory MPs owe Mr Johnson their seats. Most have believed in the past 15 years worth of propaganda about the EU, but the Tory party is rooted in English capitalism, farming, commerce and the city. As long as Johnson delivers an end to British EU treaty membership, how many Tory MPs will want the full Monty Brexit demanded by the septuagenarian generation of Tory anti-Europeans like John Redwood, Bill Cash and David Davis? If Johnson says what he brings home is a good Brexit, will Tory MPs rise in revolt? No, probably not, because there are far too many of them that will back Johnson at the end of the day, so I don't think we will see revolts as we saw with the 2019 Parliament that thankfully got kicked to the curb. But to me that doesn't really seem like an option, that just seems like they are moaning and trying to throw out party political points to try and shit talk the Conservatives. You are talking about a couple of Eurosceptic MPs and saying they might revolt, but I really can't see Tory MPs rising in revolt around that, especially when you consider what happened at the last election. You might get the odd one or two talking a bit of shit, but they ain't going to be doing anything like we saw last year. So I don't know about you guys, but that first one there just seems like it's a bit of anti-Brexit, anti-Tory party bullshit and not really an option for leaving the EU, which is what Boris Johnson is supposed to be doing and what this article is actually about. Number 2 is a Labour Brexit. The policy of Sir Keir Starmer is to say no Brexit, see no Brexit, hear no Brexit. Labour hopes a hard or WTO Brexit will lead to massive queues at Dover or Calais, as 10,000 lorries arrive in each day with fresh food and most of what Britain imports, queues for checks. Which obviously, as we already know, the Port of Dover have already said it's not going to happen, and even Calais have said the same thing. Remember, the Port of Dover chief said they have 6 months to give the paperwork in, so there will be no queuing, they should just be able to go straight through. They have been working on this for years after all, and is actually very similar to the system that they currently use now, because obviously with 6 months to get the paperwork sent over, you don't really need to worry about it. For lorries, it will essentially be the same thing. The company might just have to do a little bit more paperwork, which at the end of the day is not the end of the world. It continues, this will lead to negative images on TV, shortages of goods or medicine, and given the impression Brexit equals chaos. Will Mr Johnson offer Sir Keir Starmer this political gift of a disruptive, chaotic Brexit? which is once again just showing the Boris and Brexit derangement syndrome. Boris Johnson cannot give them that. The people who can give them that are of course the people in charge of the ports. Boris Johnson's hand does not directly fall over what goes on at the ports or what goes on in relation to absolutely anything. I expect 99% of the things the Prime Minister does is delegated to other people. At the end of the day, he likely just signs off on it. But as per usual, the Independent can't help with its Project Fear bullshit that has been refuted many times, especially the Dover nonsense as we've all dealt with previously and I covered in videos many times before. And to be honest with you, there isn't really any political gift that Boris Johnson could give Sir Keir Starmer. At the end of the day, he is the arch Ramoner, did his best to stop Brexit. No one is going to vote for him after this is done, regardless of what Boris Johnson does in relation to Brexit. If Boris Johnson fucks Brexit up, do you really think they're going to go to the arch Ramoner, Sir Keir Starmer? You must be completely deluded, which obviously the Independent and its writers are. Business Brexit. Since 2016, the CBI, other businesses and trade federations or the city have kept under the duvet, refusing to challenge Brexit. But as road hauliers, the National Farmers Union and importers face massive new paperwork problems, and the city loses more and more business as Britain's third country status cuts lucrative trade with 27 EU countries, will British capitalism finally speak out? Well, we know that's not going to happen because at the end of the day, we are not cutting trade with 27 EU countries. We are going to be our own country and then we will trade with them afterwards. And I don't know what you're talking about, the CBI not challenging Brexit. They have been all over it, moaning like you have, as we all know previously from their appearances on the BBC that I covered in Politics Live Show videos a few months back now. At the end of the day, businesses are more likely to thrive once we're outside of the EU and away from all their bullshit regulations. Number 4, we have Scottish Brexit. Scots are furious that a southern elite English political class has denied Scots their right to be European. No, the people of the United Kingdom denied them that because we had a democratic vote, and much like the independents vote for the Scots Nat Prats, they lost, we won. At the end of the day, Brexit won. It was a countrywide decision. England didn't do it, the whole country did it. And let's not forget, more people in Scotland voted for Brexit than voted for the SNP at the time. End of story. There is nothing they can say to that. Obviously, we all know the Independent is just a propaganda arm of the Scottish National Party at the moment, much like the BBC. 5. Irish Brexit. Mr Johnson has already conceded that the 6 British counties in the north of Ireland will have different trade rules to allow normal commerce with the Republic of Ireland. A hard Brexit will accentuate the divorce between all of Ireland and England. And, well, that could possibly be true, but it could also be true of the other way. Ireland now has to pay more money into the EU than they get back, and by a massive amount. So we might well see, as I've covered in previous videos, Ireland wanting to get out of the EU, which I suppose could lead to a united Ireland, but it also could just lead to a trade area between the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland, which is how it should be. And to be honest, the Irish question for Boris Johnson is kind of a shit show. I really don't know what he's going to do up there, but he's going to have to sort it out, even if it is a WTO Brexit. Number 6. David Frost's Brexit. In a paper written in 2015, the UK's chief Brexit negotiator, now Lord Frost, argued 2 essential requirements for a successful negotiation are firstly, having allies, and secondly, making what you want seem normal. Which shouldn't really be too difficult considering what we want is perfectly normal, the same as Canada has with the EU, as has been said many times before. It's actually the EU who are being a bit of an arsehole and acting like spoiled children, saying they want things that really don't add up and are not seen anywhere else in the world with trade agreements. He also said any Brexit negotiation had to be bipartisan. There is not much time for the Prime Minister to meet those requirements. Yes, but he said that in 2015 before the Ramoning shit cunt Parliament that we dealt with from 2017 to 2019. You cannot let the Labour Party, Lib Dems or any of the other snivelling shitweasels who try to stop Brexit anywhere near the Brexit negotiations, and certainly not give them any power to have any control over it. There is nothing about Brexit that requires bipartisan bullshit. At the end of the day, you just do what the people of this country voted for, end of story. Well, we're most of the way through these, and it's got to be said that they're all a complete load of bollocks, as I expect we all knew they would be before we got through them. But this always needs to be remembered that these people are coming out with this absolute bullshit. Number 7, Joe, sniff your children, Biden's Brexit. 2016 saw the birth of the national populist political Siamese twins. Trump, Brexit. If Biden wins, the White House, one half of that Siamese twin, is separated from the runt of Brexit. Everybody, severe Brexit derangement syndrome and Trump derangement syndrome has just hit there in that little sentence. Showing, as I said earlier, this arsehole newspaper is about as independent as a momentum activist. Biden is no fan of Mr. Johnson or of nationalist populism. Does Mr. Johnson want to bury the already anemic special relationship? Boris Johnson is not a nationalist in any sense of the word. He's a fucking liberal, you complete and utter muppet. Putting Boris Johnson anywhere near the word nationalism is a fucking hoot, it's gotta be said, and shows, like I said, how deranged the Independent and its article writers really are. I say article writers, you should call them journalists, but you couldn't call this arsehole a journalist in good conscience if you look at the shit that he's writing here. Expat Brexit, you know what, I'm not even reading it. I don't really care about people who are buying second homes in other countries like they have the right to stop what 17.4 million people voted for. That is a liberal, elitist way of thinking. Most people don't even own one home, you complete and utter fucking idiots. And I'm pretty sure most of the people over there don't give a fuck. This is just the Independent remoaning their life away, as they always do. You might find one or two who are actually complaining about it, but the majority of Brits who are owning second homes abroad really don't care. They'll deal with whatever situation goes on. Global Brexit. Ever since Suez, Britain's voice has been magnified and multiplied in world affairs as a leading nation shaping European-wide policy responses to different issues. No, our voice has been magnified and multiplied because we was a ruling power of the earth. That is why we are so revered currently to this day, because of our history, because obviously history is important. Being out of the EU and being an independent country will help us do that again. Obviously not the empire, but build up our reputation around the world, because we are no longer the bitch of Brussels or its bank. It continues, we still have 40 Royal Naval ships and 41 admirals, but there will be fewer British Army soldiers than new bureaucrats hired to handle hundreds of millions of forms to be filled in to do trade with Europe as a third country. Which is obviously fine. The money that we save on giving to the EU, we can spend on boosting our armed forces, then we will have more soldiers than bureaucrats hired to handle millions of forms, as the remoaning arseholes are complaining about here. And finally, number 10, Brexit Attorney. The hope that the European question is answered and the file closed on January the 1st is a dream. Brexit, unless based on serious compromises, leaving key issues to be decided at a later stage, will continue to be a big issue in British politics and in terms of all our relations with our neighbours. Brexit is only just the beginning. And no, I'm sorry to say, once again, you are all wrong. Maybe not directly on January the 1st, but soon after that, Brexit will stop being a big issue, the media will stop reporting on it, and the government will just get on with sorting it out. Well, that should be the way it goes anyway. Of course, remoaning rags like this shit-snivelling newspaper here will still bang the drum and continue to complain about Brexit, putting everything they can alongside it, trying to say Brexit caused this, Brexit caused that. It's something we have seen with the coronavirus already. Now, surprise, surprise, coming from the remoaning shit rag The Independent, that was a long-ass article of a load of utter bullshit. Barely any of it was based in reality, and instead just come out like this guy's utter Brexit derangement syndrome mixed in with a bit of Trump and Boris derangement syndrome. Most of what he calls options are not really options, they are just him finding attack points against the government and of course against Brexit. Maybe you guys can let me know down in the comments how they are options and not just remoaning talking points against the government, against Brexit, and against what the people of this country want, because I really couldn't see it.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.